American culture, including movies, music, and other media, has had a global reach, promoting American values and lifestyle. This cultural influence has helped spread American soft power around the world. But is it just a soft power which has seen the US emerge as the world's sole superpower or something else? Join us as we take a whistle-stop tour to discover how the United States of America became the world's only superpower. We start at the dawn of the 20th century in 1901, where McKinley's second term began with Teddy Roosevelt as vice president, a move by party bosses in New York to sideline him. However, fate intervened when an anarchist shot McKinley at the Pan American Exposition. Despite initial survival, McKinley succumbed to infection, marking the third presidential assassination in 50 years and sparking debates on presidential security. As the president's assassin faced the electric chair, Roosevelt ascended to the presidency, defining the decade ahead. Roosevelt's presidency saw pro-business reforms alongside pro-regulation measures, curbing unchecked corporate growth. Notably, major corporations like U.S. Steel, Ford Motor Company, and Harley-Davidson emerged. Amidst Roosevelt's international policies, the U.S. acquired the Panama Canal Zone, Oklahoma achieved statehood, and he enjoyed overwhelming re-election. Yet, challenges loomed. Advocacy for racial equality and women's suffrage gained momentum. Natural disasters struck, including the San Francisco earthquake and a coal mine explosion in West Virginia. Roosevelt's tenure saw the founding of the FBI and Department of Commerce and Labor, as well as diplomatic strides with Japan. His second term paved the way for Taft's presidency in 1908, characterized by a continuation of Roosevelt's policies and a focus on leveraging America's wealth abroad. Despite successes like the formation of the NAACP, Taft faced significant hurdles as Roosevelt's influence endured. During Taft's presidency, significant economic and labor reforms were enacted, highlighted by the Supreme Court's breakup of Standard Oil in 1911. Tragedies like the Triangle Shirtwaist Factory fire underscored the plight of workers, while milestones such as the admission of New Mexico and Arizona as states and the founding of the Girl Scouts marked the era. The ensuing election saw Teddy Roosevelt's Bull Moose party split the vote, allowing Woodrow Wilson's Democrats to secure victory. Wilson ushered in an era of change, establishing the income tax and direct election of senators, and creating the Federal Trade Commission. Meanwhile, Henry Ford introduced the assembly line, and a new era of industrialization and growth was born. However, Wilson's presidency was defined by foreign affairs, particularly World War I, despite his initial isolationist stance. The interception of the Zimmerman telegram prompted America's entry into the war in 1917. Over 2 million men were drafted, and the nation faced internal challenges with the Espionage and Sedition Acts and the First Red Scare. Prohibition swept the nation, adding to the tumultuous atmosphere which threatened to curb America's snowballing progression. The war ended in 1918, but chaos persisted. The Spanish flu pandemic claimed over 500,000 lives, and Wilson's incapacitation by a stroke left his wife, Edith, effectively in charge. Congress rejected the Treaty of Versailles and the League of Nations, though prohibition was ratified. The 19th Amendment granted women the right to vote, while the economy faced another collapse, paving the way for Harding's election in 1920 and the subsequent economic boom of the Roaring Twenties. Warren G. Harding's presidency was marked by a quiet demeanor and a pro-business stance, with separate treaties signed regarding World War I aggressors and patronage practices raising eyebrows. Despite scandal brewing, Harding's sudden death in 1923 spared him accountability. Vice President Calvin Coolidge succeeded him, earning praise for racial equality efforts, but facing economic challenges. Herbert Hoover succeeded Coolidge, grappling with the Great Depression. His unpopular policies and the rise of socialism set the stage for Franklin D. Roosevelt's landslide victory in 1932. Roosevelt's New Deal initiatives aimed to revive the economy, ushering in a new era of government intervention and social programs. As Roosevelt tackled economic woes, global tensions mounted. World War II erupted, prompting Roosevelt's controversial third-term bid. The U.S. joined the war following Japan's attack on Pearl Harbor, leading to massive industrial mobilization and domestic changes. Roosevelt's death in 1945 saw Harry Truman assume the presidency, overseeing the war's conclusion and the beginning of the nuclear age. After World War II, the United States emerged as one of the two superpowers, with the other being the Soviet Union, in what became a bipolar world. The Marshall Plan, aimed at rebuilding Europe, and the establishment of a new international economic order underpinned by institutions like the IMF and the World Bank, further solidified its status as a superpower. The Truman presidency's final years were marked by a pervasive fear of communism. Senator Joseph McCarthy led a fervent campaign against supposed communists in America, notably targeting Hollywood figures. The Korean Civil War, pitting communists against Western-aligned forces, saw U.S. involvement, leading to the enduring division of Korea into two states. Truman narrowly escaped an assassination attempt by Puerto Rican nationalists and saw the implementation of the 22nd Amendment, capping presidential terms. The nation, ready for change, welcomed General Dwight D. Eisenhower in 1952. With his vice president Richard Nixon, Eisenhower ushered in prosperity characterized by the post-war baby boom, the rise of television, and foreign interventions like the coup in Iran. This period also saw civil rights advancements, including the landmark Brown versus Board of Education ruling, catalyzing the civil rights movement with pivotal events like Rosa Parks' bus protest. The 1960s brought the charismatic John F. Kennedy to power, facing challenges like the Cuban Missile Crisis, but achieving milestones in space exploration. Martin Luther King Jr.'s "I Have a Dream" speech amplified the civil rights movement. Kennedy's assassination in 1963 led to Lyndon B. Johnson's presidency, under which significant civil rights and economic reforms were enacted, despite escalating tensions in Vietnam and domestically. The late 1960s and early 70s saw Richard Nixon's presidency, marked by continued Vietnam involvement, the Stonewall riots, and the historic moon landing. The decade closed with the Watergate scandal beginning to unfold. The 1970s were turbulent with the Kent State shootings and Nixon's groundbreaking visit to China. Nixon's re-election was overshadowed by the Watergate scandal, leading to his resignation and Gerald Ford's pardon, which stirred controversy and ultimately affected Ford's political fate. Jimmy Carter's presidency in the late 1970s faced economic challenges, a significant blackout which marred international successes like the Israel-Egypt peace deal. However, the Iran hostage crisis and energy issues tarnished his term, leading to his defeat by Ronald Reagan, setting the stage for the 1980s. Ronald Reagan assumed the presidency as Iran released hostages, an event that sparked suspicion. Early in his term, an assassination attempt by John Hinckley nearly ended his presidency, but Reagan quickly recovered, implementing significant tax cuts, firing striking air traffic controllers, and appointing Sandra Day O'Connor as the first female Supreme Court justice. His tenure saw heightened tensions with the Soviet Union, the tragic death of 241 U.S. Marines in Lebanon, the invasion of Grenada, and the development of the Strategic Defense Initiative. Re-elected in a landslide victory with Vice President George Bush against Walter Mondale, Reagan's second term faced challenges, including concerns over his age and the Iran-Contra scandal. Meanwhile, the Soviet Union saw a shift towards liberalization under Mikhail Gorbachev, leading to a reduction in nuclear arsenals. The dissolution of the Soviet Union in 1991 left the United States as the world's sole superpower, with unmatched military and economic strength. George H.W. Bush succeeded Reagan, overcoming Massachusetts Governor Michael Dukakis in the elections despite initial underdog status. Bush's presidency was marked by the Exxon Valdez oil spill, increased drug law enforcement, and continued thawing of Soviet relations. The invasion of Kuwait by Iraq's Saddam Hussein led to the Gulf War, but the 1992 election saw Bush lose to Bill Clinton amid domestic unrest and a broken tax promise of "read my lips, no new taxes." Clinton's presidency was fraught with controversy, from accusations of sexual harassment to the Whitewater investigation. His tenure saw the 1993 World Trade Center bombing, the Waco siege, and the Oklahoma City bombing, highlighting the rise of domestic and international terrorism. Despite a scandal involving Monica Lewinsky, Clinton was re-elected, ending his presidency with the country on the brink of the new millennium amidst Y2K fears and rising tensions with Al-Qaeda. Fresh from a closely fought and controversial election, George W. Bush's presidency began calmly but was defined by the 9/11 attacks, leading to wars in Afghanistan and Iraq. His re-election in 2004 was followed by criticism over the handling of Hurricane Katrina and the Iraq War. The 2008 financial crisis set the stage for Barack Obama's election as the first African-American president who enacted significant healthcare reform and faced opposition from the Tea Party movement. Obama's re-election in 2012 was buoyed by the killing of Osama bin Laden, but his second term saw challenges like the Boston Marathon bombing and ongoing debates over civil rights. The United States has benefited from a relatively stable political system and institutions that support economic and social development. This stability has made it an attractive destination for immigrants, which has, in turn, contributed to its economic growth and cultural diversity. The future of global power dynamics is subject to various uncertainties and factors that can shift the balance of power. China is widely seen as a rising superpower with rapid economic growth, increasing military capabilities, and growing global influence. Besides China, other countries like India and Brazil are also increasing their economic, military, and diplomatic influence. Their rise could lead to a more multipolar world where power is more distributed. But for now, the United States appears to be keeping a tight hold on its status as the world's only superpower, and one day could become the superpower in the game of soccer, otherwise known as football, which is all nicely explained in this other video from the channel. Let us know in the comments below how long you think the US will remain as the world's only superpower, and of course your subscription to the channel has really helped us out. Until the next time, thank you for watching.